What is going on? Today we are going to talk about how do you get back into BJJ after a long break. I'm going to give you a little bit of my background, and then I'm going to give you my top 3 tips on what to do, how to do it, what's it look like, blah, blah, blah. So let's get right into it. As far as my background goes, I trained jiu-jitsu for 2 years, starting in 2017 through 2019. And then I got my blue belt, and then I moved from Las Vegas, Nevada, up to Northern Nevada. And I was kind of bouncing around between gyms for a while, about a year, and then after that I just kind of stopped going to class, which is a very bad idea. Don't start stopping. I did also train some Muay Thai during that time, but it is not the same as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So if you're getting back into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what are the big 3 things I think you should take away? Consider this my 3-month takeaway. I started up again in August, and it is now December, so I've trained for about 3.5 months. My first thing that I would recommend to you is to not be afraid. A lot of people are very hesitant, very afraid to get back into jiu-jitsu. Any quick glance over the BJJ or the jiu-jitsu subreddits would give you all the information that you need to know about how afraid people are to get back into BJJ. If you're a blue belt, if you're a purple belt, if you're a white belt, whatever, maybe you're a brown belt. I don't know. I feel like brown belts just kind of keep going once they're a brown belt. It's like, why stop now? But a lot of people are afraid, really deep down, I think, to get submitted by a belt that's lower than them. And you walk in with a certain color on your waist, and there's a certain expectation that you should know certain things. And a lot of that stuff is probably very rusty for you. I remember my first day back, or one of my first days back after training, and I was trying to pass a newbie's guard. Big dude, white belt. I just felt like I couldn't do it. I'd forgotten most of my guard passes. I'd forgotten a lot of the basics of some of the escapes. But I will say this, that deep down, you are still that belt that you earned. You are still a blue belt. You are still a purple belt. It's just how much rust do you have to shake off? For me, it's taken about 3.5 months. I now finally feel like I'm starting to enjoy jiu-jitsu again. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I just took a lot of advice as much as I could from my new coach. And I just tried to inundate myself with information and thinking about jiu-jitsu and thinking about my roles and watching roles. And here's the other thing about fear. A lot of people are nervous that they will get submitted by a lower belt, maybe someone that's bigger than them or stronger than them, or someone that's been training consistently now for a year or so. And if you get submitted by a lower belt, who cares? No one cares. You just slap bump and go again. It's not a big deal. Even if you are a purple belt and a giant, athletic, humongous white belt comes in and taps you because you haven't been training for a couple of years, so what? When you get that rust off, you will not let that happen. Following that train of thought, there are a bunch of untrained, super strong, super big people out there. So if you're training jiu-jitsu for self-defense, you should get back in as soon as possible. Now I'm about to pull into open mat and get my butt kicked. So the next time you see me, my hair will be soaked with sweat, but I will give you the next 2 tips. Okay, as promised, I got smacked around like a little rag doll. So anyway, my second piece of advice after not being afraid is to try to focus on the things that you were good at prior to your break. Get really comfortable doing the stuff that you know and doing it well, finding out those little hidden details that you forgot in some of your sequences, and try to build on those. Obviously, you're probably going to be bad at a bunch of stuff if you've taken a long break, so you have everything to work on. But get good at the things that you used to be good at to build up a little confidence, and then target those other super weak areas. So for me, I needed to work on half guard, I need to work on some leg lock stuff, I need to work on sweeps and reversals. That was the stuff that I at least was trying to be good at prior to my break. And then, I'm filling in with getting better at keeping side control, getting better at keeping mount, at keeping the back. I'm barely even chasing submissions at this point, really just trying to get better at the positioning and holding on to a position. So that's definitely a big thing. But for you, it might look completely different. Maybe you're super good with arm bars from S mount and getting to S mount and passing into mount and doing all of those things. Maybe you're super good at passing guard in general and getting to side control or side mount. Maybe you suck at side control escapes. Maybe you're really bad at leg lock defense. So find those things that you're good at and get good at them again. And then find those things you're bad at and get better at them. Obviously, that's just how jiu-jitsu goes as a whole, but don't get too fixated on going down every different avenue if you can help it, because it's going to take you a little bit longer to sort out those things into those neat little categories like they probably were before. Because when you start again, you're going to have that like web of confusion where things aren't just so cut and dry. You don't have that nice clean flow. Things will feel rusty and blocky and sort of robotic. They don't really feel that smooth. So just get good at what you're good at first, and then the rest will kind of fall into place. Number 3, and this is a big one, choose the right supplemental exercise for you. So in my case, I did a lot of zone 2 cardio because I thought that that was going to be good for me, only to find out later in a recent research study, a research article, a meta-analysis of different forms of cardio, that there is less benefit of zone 2 training if you do it infrequently, and you'll get more cardiovascular benefit training in the higher cardiac zones like zone 4, which is primarily where jiu-jitsu lies. You're not really doing a lot of zone 2. The cardio is much heavier and much more intense than a zone 2 or even a zone 3 workout, unless you're rolling really light or easy. But especially if you're going to be competing at all, or if you like to roll hard, then you should be doing higher intensity cardio workouts, HIIT workouts, things like that. For me personally, I found that when I was training for my competition the last like 3 weeks leading up to competition, I stopped lifting so many weights and I started doing a lot more cardio. And I am someone who needs to lift weights in order to not have joint pain. So I neglected that, and I feel that it was affecting me negatively, both in the tournament and then also in my training. So for me, I have to keep lifting. I need to lift 2 to 3 times a week. I need to do strength training. I have to lift heavy. I have to make sure that I have a sufficient amount of calories as well. Cutting weight is not fun, but sometimes you got to do it, especially if you're competing. If you're not competing, then just make sure you're getting in enough food to sustain the amount of training that you plan on doing. But on the other hand, maybe you're not a strength training person. Maybe you are super strong and you need to focus on stretching. I have some videos on stretching on my channel, so make sure you check those out also. In any case, you might have to do different forms of training in order to help keep yourself balanced while you are getting back into the swing of things. You're gonna be sore, you're gonna have the aches and pains, you're gonna have the rib pain and the neck pain and the back pain and the knee pain and the ankle pain and the wrist pain and the elbow pain. And so that's all I got as far as these 3 tips are concerned. These are just my opinions from my viewpoint as a blue belt at a 3-month mark from a 5-year break from jiu-jitsu. So hopefully you guys learned something. Come back in another 3 months and I'll have another video of a 6-month review of jumping back into jiu-jitsu. I'll try to do the same thing kind of every 3 months and just sort of talk about the things that I'm finding out as I go along. So make sure you hit subscribe, you like, you comment down below. And if there's anything you want to see, let me know. Peace.